Yeah, it's really nice to do these programs here. If you guys are not in this picture, we'll probably Photoshop you in.
We'll take another one.
Or we can just take a picture again at the end. I feel like each time we do this, it's a monumental type of event. The mood I kind of get from this mantra house, I feel that right now when we go outside, there's all this chaos. There's like fire everywhere. There's all these explosions. There's tanks rolling down the street, and we're like the spiritual seekers who are coming out of the woodworks, and this is like an underground basement, and we're coming together to like make strategies and plans of how to change the world, revolutionize the world, take over the world in a higher conscious way. So that's kind of the vibe I get, which is a really cool thing. So thank you all for being here, for being on the higher conscious side and wanting to do great things in this world, which I hopefully hope we can. So yeah, the talk was originally called West Coast Spirituality, and I was gonna promote this flyer, but then I thought if I promote this flyer, I might need like a bodyguard to come with me or something. It's a little G'd up.
I'll be
Yeah.
Just a little.
Yeah, but yeah, shout out to, yeah, there's like someone meditating, throwing it up, you know. So, West Coast spirituality, what do I mean by that? Usually when we think of the West Coast, when we think of places like America, etc., we think of like total destruction, how everything bad is coming from the West, and everything in places like India and Thailand is good. I don't really necessarily buy into that. I feel that there's pros and cons everywhere. So yeah, there's a lot of pros in places like India and Thailand, very holistic, but they also have a lot of cons. And so then what's the pros to places like America? Well, I feel that America actually is one of the greatest countries on this planet, because in America you can take a dream and almost treat it like a seed and plant it into the soil. And if you give it enough light, enough nourishment, enough attention, enough water, you can grow that dream and make it become your reality. And there's no other place really on this planet where you can really do that like America. So that's something very extraordinary. And us being in Los Angeles, which is almost the hub of the world, I feel, have an extraordinary responsibility to represent this type of higher consciousness and use our creativity to help inspire and enlighten the world. So that's the pros to places like America. But then what are the cons? Well, I feel that in places like America, there's a lot of con men, there's a lot of contradictions, and there's a lack of consciousness. And the place where I see this the most, I feel, is at the school systems. It starts at the education system. I think it's really artificial that we have to sit in these desks all day long and just receive instructions and pretty much base our life out of that. And on top of that, we are all given one test. They treat us like we're some type of machines, some type of robots, and they don't really teach us our potential. They rather encourage our limitations. And so we have to really look at this at a deeper level, because it starts from an early age when this gets implanted. I don't know if any of you guys have seen this cartoon, but the teacher, he's saying, for a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree. So the monkey is looking pretty happy, but the fish is like, what the heck? And the elephant, I don't know if you guys ever seen an elephant climb up a tree, but I don't think that's possible. So this is the school system right now. They basically give us one test and they judge us off that. And so I don't think we need standardized tests. I think we need personalized tests, because we're all personal beings, we're all individual beings. And they say geniuses, they don't do good in standardized education because they don't have standardized minds. They're something much more than that. They're bigger than that. They're broader than that. So I'm gonna give a story of this little girl named Jillian. She was in the school systems at age 5, and the school basically started labeling her dumb and retarded. And her mom got really worried because she loved her daughter so much, and she couldn't believe that this school is actually calling my little girl dumb and retarded. They said that she was fidgeting too much, that she couldn't read properly, she couldn't focus on the pieces of paper, and she's not going to amount to much unless you get her some pills and drugs, etc., etc. So the mother got super worried, as you can imagine, and so she took her girl Jillian to a doctor, and the doctor was very intelligent. So they were all in a room, and the doctor observed the girl for a few minutes, and then he told the girl, Jillian, we'll be right back. Me and your mother are just going to discuss a few things. So wait in this room, and we'll be right back. So the doctor and the mother were leaving, but before they exited the door, the doctor turned on the radio and just left. And the way the room was set up, the doctor and the mother could see inside, but Jillian couldn't see what was going on outside. So now the mother and the doctor were observing what's going to happen to the little girl. And within seconds, she was on her feet. She was dancing. She was twirling. She was doing all these amazing moves. And the doctor looked at her, at the mother, and said, you know, Mrs. Lynn, there's nothing wrong with your little girl. You just have to put her into a dance school. And so the mother listened to that advice, took her daughter out of the public school system, put her into a dance school. This little girl, Jillian, went on to win awards, trophies, medals, and she's actually the choreographer and founder of the biggest Broadway musical ever called Cats. It's won over 7 Tony Awards, over 80 million people have seen this Broadway. So it's really, it's a really touching story to just put ourselves in the right type of environment and see what can happen. And so this mantra house, I feel, is that environment where we can express and share our creativity and hopefully build new things for the future. And I saw this firsthand. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, Orange County area, but I was fortunate enough to take many trips to India. My parents were kind of like spiritual pilgrims, so we would go to a lot of holy lands from an early age. And I remember visiting my grandfather's house. He lived in a place called Bombay, and he lived about 1.5 miles away from the beach. And places like India, just the whole setting and atmosphere, you automatically just pick up all these qualities you didn't know you had. And so I was automatically waking up really early, like 3, 4 in the morning. So was my grandfather. And then he would take this morning walk. So I like taking morning walks. At the time, I think I was maybe 15 when I saw this incident, what's about to happen. And we walked to the beach, and we probably reached there at 5:30 in the morning. And to my surprise, 5:30 in the morning, the beach is completely packed. There's young kids, old kids, adults, grandpas, grandmas. It's like a party is going on at 5:30 in the morning. And then I saw these school buses coming, and kids were unloading, and they all sat in circles and they started meditating and doing yoga. And it was actually part of their curriculum to watch the sunrise. And so seeing all that and then coming back to what I was known here, I could see that there needs to be a change, because there's so much mental distractions, mental diseases, mental destruction that goes on when we sit in these desks. Some people need to move to think, and we have to really start embracing this type of holistic way of life. So Mark Twain, he says, "I never let my schooling interfere with my education." Real education, the word education actually comes from the word educo. That's the Latin word, which means to develop from within. But if you look up education on Google, the definition is to give instruction. So one definition is teaching you that it's coming from the outside, but the original etymology is saying that no, real education is inner transformation, inner change, inner explosion. That's true education, and that's often being neglected. So what does the Bhagavad Gita say about this? The Bhagavad Gita is pretty much the oldest ancient spiritual literature out there as far as yoga, meditation texts are concerned. It was written 5,000 years ago, and it was spoken by an enlightened avatar named Krishna. And there's a verse in the Gita where it says it's far better to live your own path imperfectly than to live another's perfectly. So what does this mean? Let's say you are going to school, and they're only giving you a few subjects that you can really choose from, a few careers that you can pursue. And so you choose, okay, I'm going to be an accountant, and you're an amazing accountant, you're an incredible accountant, you're actually a perfect accountant, but your inner nature is something completely different. You like to take pictures, and you like to take pictures of animals, and you like to take pictures of people and buildings, and it's almost at a level where it's such a burning passion that you just can't help it. It's past the hobby stage. The Bhagavad Gita actually says that you're going to be more happier if you follow your calling rather than following something just to make money, just to be perfect in society. So I think we should tap in to our inner gifts, inner creativity, see what it is that truly inspires us, and then go for it. Because that's what's really going to impact this one life that we have. Life is short, and we have to take advantage. The Bhagavad Gita also says that no one who does good work will ever come to a bad end, either here or in the world to come. So Bhagavad Gita is starting to give some hints that there are actually different dimensions, different spiritual planets, and if we act accordingly, And if we are able to do something that's spreading enlightenment, spreading higher consciousness through our activities, through our work, through our job, through our creativity, it's going to go a long way, and it's going to take us to the right way. And finally, this guy, he's pretty much stressed out all day, and this is another book called Srimad Bhagavatam. It says, the occupation one performs is useless labor if it does not spark attraction for the Supreme Divine. So if you're at your work all day and this is your lifestyle, we have to do something immediately. We got to have the right feng shui. We got to have the right settings, the right environments that are going to remind us constantly about spiritual principles, spiritual topics. Because living a life like this is very superficial, and it's what everyone is doing. And we can't be like everyone. We have to be the setters, the trendsetters for the future millennia. And so we should really come together. So Krishna, he speaks that we have to work in this world. It's not that we can just go to some forest and meditate. It's artificial. A higher form of meditation is to actually work in this world, but to work for spiritual consciousness. And so Krishna recommends being an enlightened avatar to work, but work in a way where you always think of the spiritual essence. And who exactly is Krishna? Well, he's many things. He's an incredible figure. He's considered a hero to us. And one of the reasons why we really appreciate Krishna is that he's a protector to the animals. And he's a friend to the animals. And he loves the animals. And we were talking in the beginning of things in America that show lack of consciousness, contradictions, full of con men. And another place where we see this a lot is the current food industry. So again, tying this into early education, I think it's ridiculous that at age 4, 5, 6, we're being fed all these high sugars, high meats, without kids even questioning what they're eating. And it totally pollutes the mind, totally pollutes the consciousness. And then what's the remedy? It's more prescription drugs, more depression. This is an ongoing cycle that we're seeing right now. And so we have to really stand up for these types of causes. I remember myself, I was actually born and raised vegetarian, and going to a suburb elementary school, I was the odd one out, and kids would dangle chicken wings and things in front of my faces, and I would get a lot of anxiety. I'd feel like, man, what's wrong with me? Why am I different and all of them are the same? And so I'm glad I stuck to those values and principles. I can see what it truly means right now, because animals have a lot of love and care for each other, and they deserve to live. They deserve to be treated with respect. And if we can learn to appreciate all living beings, if we can learn to appreciate this type of culture, then we can make great advancement when it comes to spiritual life. So I'm just going to show a really quick video which I found to be really inspiring. Basically, this is a video, it's 2 minutes long, of a woman who transitions from being a meat eater to a healthy, conscious vegan. So let's watch that.
Go vegan today. You can save over 100 animals per year.
Hey, can you tell someone's vegan?
No.
Don't worry, I'll tell you.
That's so annoying. I'm the burger vegan. Hey, Mom. What's going on? Smells good.
Alright. about like slaughtering animals and like eating them and blood.
Hi there. I actually didn't think pigs got this big.
I'm so sorry.
You was a vegan?
Yeah. What are you, vegan now? I don't know, maybe. Just not gonna eat meat or dairy anymore. Still looks like meat.
When I looked into that cow's eyes, there was someone staring back at me.
It's vegan.
Shut up.
Yeah,
No, it's not.
yeah it is.
No, it's not.
I'm gonna have a black bean burger. All this Swiss is your neo vegan. Okay, I'm done. That's awesome. Way to go, Mom.
You can save over 100 animals every year in the environment. Go vegan.
So I think this is very special, just to have this type of consciousness, this type of awareness, to spread this higher enlightenment, to tap into our inner spiritual creativity, and to just spread goodness all around. So I thank everybody for being part of this mission, the Mantra House. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or things that they want to add? Yes?
I have a question from the beginning.
Uh-huh.
You said that America is the best country to...
One of the best.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask why you think that. Is it
Yeah.
because of the opportunities and because of the amount of money that is like surrounded us here?
Yeah,
Because of everything?
I think it's the opportunities. Like I was saying, if you have a dream, you can take it as if it's a seed and plant it into American soil and really fructify it. And that's really amazing. And that kind of goes out throughout the world. Everyone looks at America as the trendsetter. So if we set the right values, then we can spread this type of teaching. Just like one of our spiritual teachers, he was in India and he was trying like anything to spread some of these books of knowledge, but nobody was taking. So he decided to come to America. And at the time, it was the 60s. There was like a lot of hippies rolling around, and they immediately took to the spiritual process. And then he took those Americans back to India, and then all the Indians got interested.
Oh.
So we see that go on a lot, and so that's why I said that. Yeah. Anything else? Yes.
So there was one slide where the Bhagavad, sorry, I cannot pronounce it.
Yeah.
Bhagavad Gita says to follow your imperfect path as opposed to someone else's perfect. So my question is, does it tell you how to cope with the temptation of wanting to follow the perfect path?
Yeah, so sometimes people ask, like, how do I know what my path is? What is my true nature? And when it comes to temptations, etc., and when it comes to discovering what is our path, which way do we go in life, a spiritual association and community can really shed light on those elements. So I think having that group and surrounding is what really brings a lot of these clarity answers to the questions. They say that when you're in the frame, you can't see the picture. So you need somebody else to kind of show us the path. And then when we read these different wisdom books like the Bhagavad Gita, they make it very clear for us how to navigate.
What does it say precisely though about like it's like the way that I read that, for someone that isn't quite educated on the book, to read that, it's like, well, that's very simple, follow your dream, follow like what you're meant to do, but it's like, I can tell you something, but if I don't give you the tools on how to do it, I feel like, what does it tell me, what does the book say about like how to do it? Does it say something precisely?
Well, the book basically breaks down that there's 4 types of natures in this world. So one can be either more of a laborer type, one can be more of a business-minded type, one can be more of a managerial politician type of person, or one can be more of a teacher, learned scholar type. And you see these divisions everywhere. Like if you go to a school, since we're talking about schools today, you have teachers, and then you have administrative staff, and then you have at the school systems, you see a lot of vendors, things like that, and then you have manual labor like the janitors, custodians, etc. So it's important to really discover what is our nature, and by discovering that, we'll save a lot of time in making a lot of mistakes and errors in life. And there's a lot of assessment tests that you can take to really understand what is it that is best for me to do in this world. So it just takes some of those practical skills and tests to really find out. Yeah, and the association. It kind of makes it clear. Just seeking senior guidance. We feel that it's really important to just have senior role models in our life who've actually lived the life, and then try to get their blessings, their consultations. It makes things clear. So here at the way we live, like in the temple community, we always try to ask senior authorities what is their take. And you see that everywhere, whether you're a sports star or a musician, people have higher guidance, wisdom seekers. So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question. Maybe we can talk a little bit more after. Yeah.
Have you seen any good examples of how schools have encouraged that in the U.S.? I know there's some schools I've seen that have introduced mindfulness or meditation for kids, but have you seen any like really great examples of how schools help with what you were just talking about?
Yeah, I think the coolest thing I saw was in Baltimore. There they have a high crime rate, and so at the elementary schools, the kids are very full of anxiety, stress, plus they come from these broken homes. So they tend to kind of wild out, like act a little crazy. So before, these kids were being put into detention, just how they normally do. But then a very mindful spiritual teacher came in, saw what was going on. And that's the great thing about embracing spiritual practices, is that you get a vision, and then with that vision you can go to any place and make changes. So that spiritually minded person came to the school, saw that this detention timeout, that's not really working. So instead of detention, they started offering meditation. And so all the kids were forced to now meditate and do breathing exercises. You have a timeout, but now you have a breathe out. And it really made a drastic change. The kids improved. They liked going to school all of a sudden. The attendance rates rose for the first time in 50 years. So that story was well documented, and I thought that was really powerful. And I think this is only going to spread. I think people are starting to wake up, just like when we saw with that vegan video, that just by online social media you start seeing these videos, and it really plays a great impact into a whole lifestyle change. So it's so powerful. Yeah. Okay, thanks so much, guys. Really appreciate it. I think now we're gonna put this meditation into action by continuing on with different music melodies that just help soothe the self, soothe the soul. And then we're gonna have a really awesome vegan Mexican night dinner. So get ready. Thank you very much.